This beautiful building had been a garage, and then I tore it down with two friends and rebuilt it into a 30 by 22 foot studio. Here is the gallery space of the studio that I use not only to be able to present my work to visitors, but also for me to be able to look at my work when I think it's in process and not quite done, so that I can have some sort of sense of what might be going well in it and what might need a little more work. Though in this quick spin, I haven't let you see anything up close. I'll point out that my work falls into about three categories, one of which is seascapes of Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. This is the front yard of a friend of mine property, and it astounds me because I grew up in coal country in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I have never seen landscape like this, which is just around the corner down towards Halifax. This is an oil that's of Cranberry Cove, and then continuing along, this is another little piece that is a seascape. This spot right here is what you see when you look out towards the ocean. Well, if you turn around the other direction, you see Cranberry Cove. This small oil and this watercolor are also scenes that I am not used to. So they caught my eye and have stayed in my brain ever since. Happily, I have a gallery in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is Canada's oldest gallery, 1883 or something like that, because nobody in the Adirondacks really has an understanding of why these are important seascapes. What folks in the Adirondacks are used to is the stuff that I see out my back door when I go skiing in the wintertime. This is a ski trail down our backyard, which goes into the forest preserve. This is a spot just up the road. So this is coming into Tupper Lake one day as I was heading down towards Old Forge. But this is really my landscape most of the time because I live in the deep woods. I don't have big mountains to see. I see the Adirondacks up very close to me. As this painting shows, if I can keep it without a reflection. That's a very big painting of a very small piece of ground just out our back door. So those are two of the places that I like to paint. Anybody who's been over in the Paul Smiths area might understand this view. This is the potato fields as you go into Saranac Lake. So those are two places, and then there's this. I have a friend who has a lighthouse in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and this is from Ocracoke, where his lighthouse is, where I go up into the top of the lighthouse and paint in the morning, and I have this view out one direction. And then I have this view if I'm looking towards the bay. But again, these are landscapes I didn't see in the coal region of northeastern Pennsylvania. So now that's 3 divergent areas. And then I have this love of central New York, where I went to college. And the reason that I came up here was not to get away from central New York, because I loved it, but it was to help open up the visitor centers that New York State opened 33 years ago. So anyway, I have these divergent tastes, and they are clear if you take a studio tour of my studio. And so basically, at this point in my life, I'm much more interested in problem solving my paintings than I am in trying to figure out a style that is marketable. So you might see this. This is the latest piece in process right now. It's of Ausable Chasm up north of us towards Plattsburgh. I had not been there, and I went recently with my wife, and I was stunned by the geology of the site. So that's what I've been trying to capture, is that feeling. And because I have been on one of these for the last 30 years, I got on my first Macintosh as a designer in 1987, and I have been sort of chained to a Mac and Photoshop and Illustrator and all of the Adobe programs for all of those years. I built this studio to get away from all of that and not be chained to the computer anymore. I much prefer trying to capture things that I really love, like Red Barns in central New York. Or years ago, this is my oldest painting in here. This is just after I had finished graduate work at Boston University in painting. This is one of the mountains out in Glacier in Montana. But all of this, that's another Ocracoke, it's another Cape Breton, but I'll point out something that I think is really important. You'll see in the next room lots of figure studies, because I have, with a group of friends, been drawing from the figure every week during the winter on Monday nights in Lake Placid at the Lake Placid Center for the Arts for 2.5 hours for really important reasons for an artist. This is what I consider batting practice as an ex-baseball player. This is what you have to do to keep your hand working and to be able to, even if you're tied to a computer all the time, this is difficult and demands attention. And so I did it with friends for 30 years to try to make sure my hand was working well. The reflections here are a little bit of a problem. The story on these two drawings with all their reflections is interesting as well. When I had decided to stop being a graphic designer on a Macintosh, I wanted to take some advanced anatomy courses, though I had taken anatomy in art school on purpose. I was ready to have feedback that would tell me when I made mistakes, not just pat me on the back. I ended up going up to Montreal and having a wonderful Russian-trained anatomy teacher at a atelier in Montreal. And I keep these drawings on the wall to remind me of the importance in my mind of observation and drawing, a skill humans have had for about 40,000 years, dating back to the cave paintings in France. So this is my world. I come over here every day. I paint for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I take a break, and then I paint for another hour and a half or 2 hours. And then if I'm lucky, I come back at night and paint a third time. And what does that mean? I don't know. It means that I've finally gotten to a place where I can do what I want. A lot of this started back when I was in my 20s, working for the fellow who invented this, Liquitex Modular Color, as his assistant, doing things like this color chart here, which was my first assignment from him, to mix the Liquitex beta testing oils with white and compare them against the competition. So I have a background that involves color theory work, it involves graphic design, computer work, and as you can see from all the packing and wrapping materials, I was in the traveling exhibit business in my late 20s, early 30s. So, and I wrote a book on how to wrap and pack artwork for travel. And I think I have learned by this time all parts of the game. As an English major, as an undergraduate, I also was in charge of doing PR. And so that came into play in my 30 years of doing museum exhibit design. So I've been asked to give you about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and I've taken 10, of my studio and my work. And this is it. Please come up and visit. You can find my information on the website. Give a call ahead to make sure I'm going to be here, but I'd be happy to sit down and talk about art with any of you and all of you. It's an amazing way to spend a day. Thank you for your patience, and I look forward to meeting some of you or all of you. Thanks.